Well, no one plays dead like Sir Laurence Olivier. That was his take on Richard III in the 1955 British film. Tomorrow, the king will be reinterred at Leicester Cathedral, nearly 530 years after his death. History hasn't been kind to Richard, vilified by Shakespeare, a monster with a hunchback, murderer of his nephews in the Tower. Then, 3 years ago, a fresh interest in Richard led to the discovery of his suspected remains. And it took 2 Canadians to help solve the mystery. The CBC's Red Sharon explains.
For months now, it's been part of Michael Ibsen's daily routine. The craftsman has been toiling away, hand-working the wood in his small shop in North London, building, of all things, a coffin. There are indications of his Canadian heritage. Yes, that is a Canadian Crown Royal bag, and on the table nearby, an invitation to a burial. The reburial, really, of a king. But this is no ordinary king. This king, King Richard III, was the stuff of legend. And oh yes, he just happens to be family. It was here in the Midlands, on the battlefield at Bosworth during the War of the Roses, that he fell. The hunchback, so-called villain king was cut down on the pointy end of his successor's sword. It's something that now happens every Saturday during summertime reenactments. As Shakespeare put it, my kingdom for a horse. But Richard had lost his steed in battle, and he fell dead on the ground. The last British king to die on the field of battle in Britain. And for almost 530 years, this is where he lay, downtown Leicester. In a car park with people driving over him, parking on him, dripping oil from their motors over the last resting place of the monarch.
This is where we found him. So on the very first day when we were excavating,
Dr. Turi King says the team from the University of Leicester couldn't believe it.
How appropriate you have the name King.
I know.
You must have thought you hit the jackpot.
The number of people who've said that to me is like, your surname, you were destined to do this.
Back in 2012, thanks to funding from the Richard III Society, they decided to try and find their king, believed buried on the former site of the Grey Friars Church, but it had long since been destroyed. On the very first day, digging for mere hours on a renewed hunt for Richard's remains, they stumbled on the king. At least they thought it was him. There was the telltale curvature of the spine.
It was an extraordinary discovery that stunned all of us.
It was enough to attract the attention of the world press, and the one king's suspected remains were destined to make Dr. King famous. You see, not only does she have a background in archaeology, Dr. Turi King is also an expert in genetics and ancient DNA.
How does it feel presiding over probably one of the greatest royal mysteries in recent history?
Yeah, it's been a really amazing project. Very high pressure, a lot of public interest, but really amazing project to be involved in. I'm really lucky.
Luck had already played a huge role just finding the remains. But now science would take over. Richard III had no descendants, but mitochondrial DNA was passed down through his sister, Anne of York. If that DNA could be extracted, in this case from a royal molar,
Finally. Right.
looking for that needle in a royal haystack, a match to a living relative would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt these were King Richard III's remains. By the way, Dr. Turi King also happens to be Canadian. Growing up as a young girl on the West Coast, a graduate of the University of British Columbia, she even has her roots backpack to prove it. A backpack good enough for a king.
Richard has traveled in the bag.
He has. When I've had to take samples to various places, he's gone in this with me because I daren't put him in my luggage to go in planes. He comes with me in my bag. Hello.
Today, that same bag is carrying something else.
For your birthday.
Birthday cake for Michael. You see, not only have they become good friends, Michael is the missing genetic royal link to King Richard III they were looking for.
I am a 17th generation nephew.
So that's nephew 17 times removed?
Yes, yeah.
It was through his mother Joyce that the mitochondrial DNA link was found.
So there am I with my brother and sister.
Right.
This is my mother, and this is the line all the way back to Anne of York.
You have royal blood running through your veins.
Well, I'm not sure about the blood, maybe a bit of DNA.
Well, it's all together, isn't it?
It's all together, yeah.
It would take this Canadian connection to answer the question once and for all.
Give me lots of cheek cells from which I can extract DNA from.
Michael provided Dr. King with a DNA swab. A microscopic comparison soon confirmed the genetic royal link.
And I got up and I did a little dance around the lab because I just thought, oh my goodness.
This is unbelievable.
As you can see, they did indeed match one another.
And then she told the whole world.
My favorite moments of this whole project was actually telling Michael the results, sitting him down and saying, look, there's a DNA match. That was a really big moment for me, actually.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada. Yeah.
It's all led to a royal explosion of sorts.
My young cousin, Richard, Duke of Gloucester.
There's a new interpretive center in Leicester, where people can learn, for example, that King Richard was the first to introduce weights and measures, or to translate books like the Bible into English, or that he died a rather gruesome death.
So he had quite a number of injuries, eh?
He did. He had 11 wounds, but 9 of those were on his head.
Somebody really wanted him dead.
Yeah, really.
And at the Anglican Cathedral,
So this is a medieval foundation, dates from the 1200s.
where he will once again be laid to rest, they have just finished spending over $3 million, close to £1.5 million on his new tomb.
The tomb is going to be through the screen.
But this is a computer-generated model. They wouldn't let us see the real thing. The very Reverend David Monteith says it's all about privacy for the workers.
But it's all kept completely top secret at the moment.
It has nothing to do, insists the Dean, with the reported check cut by a British TV channel for exclusive rights to the funeral. Outside, some folks are happy that Leicester is being put on the map. Others think it's a little bit silly.
A little bit silly. He's being paraded around for a bit and then buried again, is that right? Yeah, it makes you wonder why he's been dug up to then be buried again.
Wow.
Back in Michael's wood shop, when we were there, he had just finished making the coffin fit for a king. That's right, he was asked to make it one more Canadian connection, but he was forbidden from showing us by that check cut by the TV channel. There it is, under wraps.
How about you go get us a couple of coffees?
Not on your life.
Of course, last Sunday it was finally revealed for the world to see. A proud moment for Michael, but his real joy comes from his mother's memory.
My mother was quite proud of the connection, and she never lost her fascination with her English heritage.
Was she a monarchist?
Oh, very much so.
And are you?
I'm quite fond of our present monarch, Queen Elizabeth. I think she does a fantastic job.
That's a political answer.
Indeed, indeed.
And how does the other half of the Canadian connection feel?
In a quiet moment,
Yeah.
do you think Some of this is a little bit silly, but wow.
It's well, it is one of these things. I haven't cured cancer. We haven't cured cancer. We have identified a king, but that's a really, it has been a very interesting project to be a part of.
Yes, yeah. A crown on your head.
Oh no.
Tomorrow, amidst much pomp and ceremony, this is where he will once again be laid to rest. King Richard III, thanks to those two wonderful Canadians, after being poked by science, prodded by protocol, and paraded across the countryside, will be put back in the ground only a few hundred meters from where he lay for over 500 years. Red Sharon, CBC News in Leicester, England.